Today we start our summer movie series, and the movie is Miracle. We will unpack the movie and specifically how Coach Herb Brooks had this whole plan and did a number of things throughout the movie that his players didn't understand, they didn't always like, but there were greater purposes to what Coach Herb Brooks was doing. And today, we will unpack how that parallels what God is doing in our life, our view of sometimes how we question God. And so a lot to unpack. It's next. It's Unpacking It. It's the summer movie series. Welcome to the Unpacking It Podcast, where we unpack parallels, metaphors, and topics in sports and movies that relate to life and faith. I'm Bryce Johnson in downtown Mount Holly, just outside of Charlotte, North Carolina, joined in studio by my co-host, Trip Smith, and we are fired up to talk movies for the next 4 weeks. We begin today with the movie Miracle. We will also be doing Field of Dreams, F1, and one more surprise at the end. So looking for, Invincible. That's what it is. I just forgot what it was. Invincible. That was the surprise with Mark Wahlberg. So it's going to be a lot of fun. And so we do this. We've been doing this the last few Julys, and with just kind of a number of sports winding down, this time of year, it gives us just something different and fun to talk about. So we are looking forward to it. Hope you are as well. And today's topic will hopefully be extremely encouraging for all of us. We are thankful to be broadcasting on YouTube, Glue TV, Facebook, Twitter X, LinkedIn. Glad to have you. We always appreciate when you leave comments, and those of you that listen to the podcast, always love your support, and anytime you rate and review, it's always appreciated. And for those of you that listen to our show on 1.5 speed, yeah, I'm talking to you, Brady. So I get into the car the other day on 4th of July, hanging out with my buddy Brady, and he has the podcast up. So he's been listening to the podcast, which is great, but he's got me going on 1.5 speed. And so I had to listen to myself 1.5 speed, and it's like, slow it down. It'll be such a better show. But nonetheless, however you're listening, however fast you are listening to us, we hope that you will continue to support this show and enjoy the show. So we're glad to be with you. Also, quick announcement. The Fantasy Football Fellowship podcast returns this week. So make sure you are subscribed to the Fantasy Football Fellowship podcast, and we will be with you until Christmas, doing that each week, talking fantasy, faith, and life. And make sure you get your league signed up, fantasyfootballfellowship.com. Also, we've got to talk, before we talk Miracle, we've got to talk World Cup. And so let's say hello to Trip. We're coming off a tough loss last night for the American soccer team. That was painful to witness. Trip, how you doing today?
Talk about patriotic whiplash, right? I watched this movie over the weekend. You're hyped about America, and you start to believe, we can do it.
USA.
We can do anything. I believe in miracles. Why not us? And then last night it was, why not because about 9 minutes into the game, you realized we might be in trouble. And what was so disappointing is I had started to believe in the U.S. team. I think I'm documented on this podcast prior to the World Cup beginning, saying that every year coming into the World Cup, we're sort of told this is the year for the U.S. U.S. soccer is stepping onto the international stage. We can play with these other teams. And I said, I'm not going to buy into it this year, because we say that every time. It's never really true. I don't want to be too cynical, too pessimistic, but it's never really true. And then with the excitement of sort of the group stage, I started to feel like, okay, maybe this team can press at least to the quarterfinals, if not, maybe even sneak into like the Final Four, the semifinals. And then we played Belgium last night, and we just looked outclassed throughout the game. I mean, it just looked like a college team, an amateur team playing a professional, mature group of serious soccer players, and it was disappointing. So I want to, best wishes to those guys who worked their butts off to be on the U.S. team, to play hard. They did play hard until, the last kind of 30 minutes or so last night when they started to sense that they probably weren't going to be able to pull it off. But it was a fun run. I still love the World Cup. I'm excited to watch the remaining games of the World Cup, especially when we get to the semifinals and the final game. But disappointing finish for the U.S. in what looked at times like it could have been a promising run for them. They didn't finish strong.
No, that was hard. That was hard to watch. And yes, I tried to get into it. My buddy Brady, who's a diehard, was convincing me on 4th of July. He's like, you got to have your main TV on. You got to have the volume up. You got to have surround sound. Get into it. And it was this game was a tough way for me to really get into it. I'll say that. But another 4 years. We'll see what changes
again in 4 years. Yeah,
we'll see what changes.
I'm here to tell you,
they can make
nothing. Again, I don't want to be too cynical. I just think you and I were talking before the show about how just the system that develops and identifies talent in the U.S. versus the rest of the world when it comes to soccer is so different, and so I think you could say inefficient. Our best players often end up playing overseas. So I just don't know that soccer is ever going to be our sport. But I'm excited. I'm happy to get excited about it every 4 years. I got buddies who are into the Premier League year round. When you watch soccer at the highest level in other parts of the world, it is an exciting sport, and you can understand why it's the world sport and the beautiful game. But I just don't know that it's ever going to take off in the U.S. the way that we are sometimes narrativized that it will, leading into major world events like the World Cup.
We keep waiting, but yeah, I mean, I'm thankful to have a local team, Charlotte FC. Those games are a blast. So looking forward to the invite to go to one of those games coming up this summer, early fall. So we'll see. But yeah, and of course after the World Cup. So we'll see how all that turns out. If we talked about this we're talking U.S. hockey today, how would the love and excitement that we had for this year's gold winning hockey team, how would that translate to the NHL? That same conversation happens with the World Cup. How does that translate to the MLS? We'll see. We'll see if, a lot of people were very into this year's World Cup here in America. This was a big deal. Of course, It was on, locally.
Helps that it's, here. In our country.
Buddies were going down to Atlanta to see games. And so all of that was good. And hopefully that does create some momentum, at least from a fan perspective. But there are a lot of deeper issues when it comes to the actual players and development and getting up to speed with the rest of the world. That's not going to happen overnight. That's for sure. All right. Speaking of soccer, quick shout out to Upward Sports. They're a sponsor here on the Unpacking It podcast. We are grateful for their support, and many people are excited about the World Cup and thinking about soccer. And the reality is a lot of these young kids are starting to play soccer, and we need organizations, like Upward too, that are developing great soccer players that are also telling them about Jesus and pointing them to him. And so Upward does a great job of mixing the ministry side of it and the fundamentals and getting kids really into soccer at a young age and developing them in that way. And so Upward Sports is ready to help your church launch a fall soccer league, and they'll support you every step of the way, from communication tools and marketing materials to jerseys that celebrate even this special occasion with the World Cup. And they've got amazing ministry resources. Plus, to help your ministry get off the ground, Upward will send you 2 free soccer goals when you create your league. Don't wait. Schedule a call with the Upward team today, and they'll help you create the best timeline for your soccer launch. Learn more at upward.org/soccer. All right, from soccer to hockey, today we are talking about the movie Miracle, and this came out in 2004, and at some point I must have watched it. However, I had forgotten just how good it was, or maybe I didn't appreciate it as much the first time around, but I watched this on Sunday Trip, and I absolutely loved it. It's a good 2 hours. And
that's a little long. Yeah. Surprising. Yeah.
It's a little long. Let me get you on here. Sorry. So it's a little long, but I was like glued to my seat the whole time. It is a wonderful movie. And so we're going to talk about all the different angles from this movie, just from the acting and all of that. and then we'll have the parallel from a spiritual standpoint. But my one big takeaway is that this was a very serious movie.
Yeah.
Not a lot of humor, not a lot of, there was some relational type stuff with Coach Brooks and his wife, but that was the extent of it. It wasn't like there was a secondary love story. Even though this was a Disney movie, I didn't find it to be too Disney-ified, other than maybe a couple of the speeches, but hopefully there was some element of truth there. So anyway, that was my big takeaway. This was a serious, somewhat, real hockey movie, different than maybe you'll remember the Titans in that regard. So that was my big takeaway.
Yeah, that's a great point. Remember the Titans came out in 2000. This came out in 2004. There is definitely more humor and playfulness in that Remember the Titans movie.
Yep.
But what I would say is where sort of the humor, or at least the smiles that came to your face, had to do with how serious of a person and how intense of a person Coach Herb Brooks was, and the people in his life who knew and loved him best, who would sort of lovingly, gently, sometimes playfully call him out of that. Most notably, his wife. I love the actress Patricia Clarkson, by the way. I think she's kind of underrated. She's great as his wife in this.
Great role. Yes,
but also, what's the name of his Coach Craig Patrick, his buddy who knows him well and is kind of inviting him out of his intensity from time to time, is supposed to be the foil to his meanness to the players by being sort of the loving kind of father figure to the players. And so the moments of the movie that do bring a smile to your face have to do with this intense, singular visionary of a coach and the people around him who at the right times are saying, but you do need to chill out a little bit,
That's right.
And speaking of chill out, I'll say my family and I, so I got my boys to watch this with me.
Oh, you did? Okay.
I talked my wife
You get emotional about it?
As I'm thinking about the special moment. No, I mean, well, I will say I actually did feel emotional. It's one of those movies that in the great moments of the movie, it kind of brings goosebumps, makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up a little bit. But we watched it on the 4th of July.
Oh, man.
We got out there, we did the family activities in the AM hours of the 4th of July. And then here in Charlotte, it was about 105 degrees. It couldn't have been any hotter. And so to get inside in the afternoon, crank up the AC and watch a hockey movie, and an excellent patriotic hockey movie, no less, on the afternoon and evening of the 4th of July, turned out to be a great family activity for us. So I would suggest to our listeners who are still out there riding that 4th of July America 250 high, maybe feeling a little bit disappointed about the way that the World Cup ended.
That's right.
Go flip this movie on. It's on Disney Plus. It's available on Disney Plus and a couple other platforms out there. So worth watching. If you got kids, worth watching with your kids. It's a pretty good movie. Few H words they sneak in there. So just I guess that's the important disclaimer. They say. Okay.
There's some language.
I'm going to save it because I got a critique about this movie, but I'll save it for a little bit later. But yeah, keep going.
Okay.
Other thoughts?
Yeah. Well, I'm holding up the DVD here, and so this came out 8/15/2004. I must have bought this from Blockbuster. It looks like
That's
I
your
have
copy.
This. I'm pretty sure this is my copy from back in the day.
And you didn't go track that down this weekend in some $2 bin at Walmart or something like that?
Well, I'm still looking for, because next week we have Field of Dreams. I'm still looking for a copy of that. I do not have a copy of that. But I do have Invincible, and today I've got Miracle. But anyway, it's just fun to look at old DVDs because you talk about streaming it. This was a two DVD set. This was double disc.
Is that DVD or Blu-ray?
I think it's DVD.
DVD, yeah.
Yeah, DVD.
And you watched it off of that DVD?
No, I watched it on Netflix.
I was about to say, I don't have a way to play DVDs
I
or
don't
Blu-rays.
I do, but I have an Xbox that is not even hooked up.
Uh-huh.
So I don't play video games.
Film purists will say that the best way to watch a movie is still if you can find the Blu-ray of that movie and watch it on your Blu-ray player, that's a good way to watch. But no, we're full streaming in the Smith household, so.
All right, so you watched it for the first time.
Yeah, I'd never seen it before.
So just kind of all right, I just saw it. Where does this stack up with sports movies? Like how good of a sports movie was this? Now, this is as significant of a sports story that has been turned into a movie as there is.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, this is a major sports story, and the significance of it is, I was reminded of that. The worldwide political impact that this movie, or that this real story had, that is portrayed in this movie, was a big deal too. Not to mention just what they accomplished from a sports standpoint as well. This was big time.
Well, so I'll say, I was immediately struck by this. As soon as you turn the movie on, you're struck by the fact that the opening credits are incredibly long.
Yes.
And when you're watching with a 4 and a 5-year-old and they're like, Dad, when is the movie going to start?
What is this?
And you're like, son, this is the way that all movies used to be. You had to suffer through 10 minutes of opening credits before the action of the movie started, which you never see anymore. You have to jump immediately into the action in today's sort of film landscape.
You'd watch the previews and a long opening scene, and those are gone.
You're 45 minutes deep before you even get to the movie. I mean, so the reason that I was immediately struck by, this is a movie that is a product of a bygone era. And I would say that the real indication of that is the totally non-cynical view of just trying to be an inspiring, optimistic sports movie. I just don't think that you really see that anymore. It's interesting to think about why that is. I mean, there's a speech that they have a real recording of President Carter making a speech relatively early in this movie talking about how for the first time in American history, I mean, this was a trippy experience watching this thing on America 250, thinking about the sort of political, social landscape of our country today. And I think the President Carter says something in there about for the first time in American history, something like fewer than 50% of Americans believe that the future is brighter than our past, right? They're more optimistic about our future than they are about our past. So I think in that sense, sort of the ethos, the feeling that this movie is trying to address and that this hockey team was addressing at the time is very relevant today. And so I found it to be actually sort of, in spite of being a little bit of a pessimistic person myself, I found it to be an inspiring movie that just helped me say, like, in the right way, I think, am I being too pessimistic or too cynical about this great country that we're blessed to live in? You know, it's like sort of America's the worst country in the world except for all the other ones. You know, it's like America is a great country to live in. It has been a historically important country. There are so many blessings and so many rights that we have in this country that are totally historically unique. And so the thing that struck me the most was how this was a totally non-cynical, inspiring take on one specific story that in some ways is kind of a microcosm of the American spirit conquering pessimism and sort of outside forces. I will say it's always funny to me that there are a few demographics of people that you're just always allowed to make the unqualified villains in any movie, you know? And it's like the Russians are, the Soviets are always right up there. You can just make the Soviets the worst characters in any movie. You don't have to have any nuance about that. It's like how Indiana Jones was always fighting against the Nazis, you know, and you could make their faces melt off at the end of the movie because they were Nazis. You know, it's like you can always rag on the Soviets. But I'll say this movie was much more inspiring to me. And when I think about like where was that turning point in American history where we became more and more kind of pessimistic and self-critical and less optimistic about the American experiment. And I think it probably you have to say it probably began. Well, this movie would say it began with the Vietnam War. I would say in my lifetime, it began with 9/11, where we sort of started to recognize, like, we're not this unassailable and sort of unqualified good force in the world. And you can see how, remember the Titans, made in 2000, addressing our racial history, but with a really optimistic and positive view about the ability to reconcile. This movie, 2004, right? And I think you don't see sports movies made like this anymore that are totally unqualified, positive outlooks on the power of sports to bring people together and to tell a bigger story than just the game that's happening in front of us.
Wow. You had a deep take.
I had a deep take.
Wow.
I'll tell you, I did get emotional. I'll tell you.
Way to go.
I count it as crying in a movie when a tear trickles down your face. Okay. So if there's just liquid kind of welling up in your eyes, all right, but it doesn't roll down the face, I didn't cry. And so I'll say I didn't cry in this movie, but I did get goosebumps multiple times. And there was one time, like when they won the game and Al Michaels is shouting, "It's a miracle, it's a miracle." Spoiler alert, they win the big game at the end.
Do you believe in miracles?
I did feel myself tearing up, and I was glad that my boys were watching it, right? I want them to believe this about the power of sports. And it was just a trippy experience to watch it on America 250 on the 4th of July.
It's awesome.
And to feel good about our country, you know? So yeah, I loved this movie way more than I thought that I was going to, having never seen it before. Knowing that it had good reviews, but having never seen it before, I really, really enjoyed it.
It was way better than I remembered. And I think it's maybe not as much of a kid. It's not a kid's Disney sports movie. It's a little bit, you got to understand kind of
it's a little slow,
the adult side of it. But what I love about sports, and especially with sports movies, and this is just kind of who I am as a person, the idea of building something.
Mm-hmm.
And so I love building Legos, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But this was about building a roster and figuring out the right guys that were going to fit together. And the whole process of when they had 26 players, they got down to 21 players, and the final player that had to get cut, like
Coxie.
Oh man.
No.
Ralph Cox.
Yeah.
So that whole element to me was really fascinating. And then, of course, which we'll talk more about from a spiritual standpoint, but the ways that he was training and preparing these guys and the whole process that they went through, it was really fun to watch. Because let's face it, when we watch sports, we have no idea what goes on in the 6 months leading up to the Olympics or now we have a little bit of training camp for one team. We'll watch Hard Knocks, but we don't really know what's going on. And even that is edited and all that. So we always imagine how these teams are being built, how they're coming together, what players actually get along, and what is the tension. We'll hear rumblings years later from NBA players. They go, oh yeah, this guy, we didn't like this guy or that guy, and there was so much tension between us and the coach. But to watch it in a movie, that to me was fun. As a sports fan, I liked seeing that. And then to see how they came together to ultimately win and win at such a significant level was thrilling.
Yeah.
And so that was the other part of it that I truly loved.
I mean, isn't that what we love about these kind of sports movies and what we love about sports in general? Is I think I sort of believe that it is an innate human desire that all of us would like, at some point in our life, we came together with a group of people and we really accomplished something difficult through unity, through hard work, through believing in ourselves, through persevering and never giving up, right? I mean, I don't know if everybody desires that. I know that I have a deep desire for that myself. I think a lot of men feel that way. And the place that we experience that the most often is in sports.
I was going to say with my fantasy team.
With your fantasy team. That's exactly right. Just one of many examples, Bryce. That's exactly right.
Me and those little guys, man, we work hard together.
We love the story. This is the reason why sports dynasties inevitably become sort of the villain, right? I mean, the Soviet team was a dynasty, right? And they become the villains because of how dominant and seemingly unstoppable they are. But we love the story of the team who worked their butts off, who maybe in some cases literally puked their guts out, for months and months and months leading up to the big moment when they came through and pulled off the championship. We love that story in real life. We love it in these sorts of movies. And I sort of think it's something that we all want to be a part of a few times in our life. I was a part of a team, a part of a group that worked really hard at something, and we succeeded at our goal, or at least we made the most valiant effort that we could make. I love how Coach Herb said before the final game, he told his wife, I want these 20 boys 20 years from now to be able to say that they gave it their all, right? That they left it all on the ice. And that's such a great line. And I think that's a desire that all of us have. And so this movie really scratches that itch in a beautiful way. And the fact that it's based on a true story makes it that much better.
So last year when we did our summer movie series, I made the case that I like pretend or imaginative sports movies. There's a better word than that, but make believe sports movies. Those are fun to me. I probably prefer them. But when it comes to true, because I just think it's hard to capture a true sports story, especially when you witnessed it. But something as significant as this, and especially for generations later, like I didn't watch I wasn't born during the 1980 Olympics. So to be able to at least get a feel for what it was like, I think is really important. To your point, U.S. history, but also sports history. This was so important. And so we need to see this on the big screen, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which was great. But here's my other interesting take when it comes to sports movies, and curious what side you're on with this. And I guess it ties back to what my take was last year. But I don't necessarily like watching acted out sports scenes. So when they were actually playing the hockey, I don't really enjoy watching that in a movie. Like these guys are actors. I know they're using real hockey players to a certain extent, but I almost wonder, it's like, man, what would it look like to actually cut in the real footage and just show that whenever you're showing the actual hockey footage. Because like I was saying earlier, I love all the behind the scenes. I love watching the building and the practices and the interactions and the behind closed doors. Like that's what I love about the movie. When they show the actual ice and them playing, I already know they won. It just, I'm not as into that aspect of it. And so would it have been better if we just saw more real footage? They did that, it seemed like, with Al Michaels, which I want to talk more about too.
Yeah, that was cool.
But I wonder, that's my other question.
Yeah.
What do you prefer?
Okay. So I'll say, when I'm thinking about, sports that it would be the most difficult to choreograph in a cinematic setting, hockey has to be near the top of that list, right? I mean, you've got to find actors and stunt people who can skate, right? And trying to reenact some of those checks against the boards. And I think that, but I will tell you, one of my very favorite things in movies is when an actor or an actress, especially a famous actor or actress, is supposed to be doing something athletic, and you realize that no matter what they did, they could not make this person look athletic. And I just think that that's absolutely hilarious. I think famously, there's a guy who plays quarterback in a movie like Varsity Blues, who has he looks like he has never thrown a football before, and they cast this guy to play quarterback. You can find clips of this on YouTube. It is one of the funniest things. It's the worst. Or Brentley, my wife this weekend was like, you know what movie I'd like to see that I haven't seen in a while is the movie Bend It Like Beckham. We saw David Beckham on a commercial during some of the World Cup coverage.
I never saw that movie.
Yeah, Bend It Like Beckham. It's an okay movie. It's not a great movie.
It's not going to make our summer movie series.
Yeah, it's not going to make our. It's not part of the summer movie series for this podcast. It's for a different audience. But one of the things that stands out to you in that movie is like Keira Knightley, who I think plays the main character, is incredibly unathletic, or at least has never played soccer before, and so that is actually one of my favorite things in sports movies.
Really?
I love it. I think it's so funny to laugh at it. I can suspend my disbelief and still get caught up in the plot of the movie without, and also laugh at the fact that these actors are not very good at the sport that they're portraying. And I think I wanted to go back and look at this on YouTube. I didn't get a chance to do it. The place that this came out the most clearly for me is there were so many scenes in this movie where the goalkeeper was like 10 feet outside of the crease. And it looked like because the director had told him, okay, you need to reenact a really difficult sort of stick side save here. And it looked like he was just barely able to stay on his feet. And he'd be 15 feet away from the goal.
I didn't notice that.
And then hustle to get back. And I'm like, I'm pretty sure in real hockey, that is highly frowned upon to get that far away from the goal. So that was where it came through in this movie. But I will say overall, I thought they did a pretty good job of reenacting some pretty intense hockey action.
Yeah, I'm not saying it was bad. I don't know. I just don't get into it as much.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And they do. One of the tricks that they will use is to pan the camera very quickly from one bit of action to another and clip things together so that you're never watching an extended scene. True. And there was a lot of that in this movie. You're going to feel like you're getting nauseous from getting whipped all over the ice. But overall, I thought it was a pretty good portrayal of the sports action.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen a movie? Have you ever seen a movie where you thought, man, the sports action was just really great in this? Like it looked like they were really playing the sport. Like Woody Harrelson in White Men Can't Jump looks terrible at basketball. He looks terrible at basketball.
That's kind of the point, though.
Right. I mean,
but no, I mean, the thing is, like, I just love real sports. So I watch real sports. So when I watch a movie, I'm not looking for the real sports aspect.
No,
of it.
I just enjoy that from like a humorous perspective. So yeah, I'm different than you on that. It doesn't bother me. I just like to laugh at it.
All right. We got to share our favorite line from the movie and or favorite scene. And so the first time in the movie, and I think it was the only time, I think I laughed one other time, where I laughed out loud was when this was a key scene in the movie where they lost to the Swiss team, and he made them stick around. It was like just an exhibition game, and they had to stick around and practice and run sprints on the ice, and they were just continuing to go and go and go, and they're trying to get him to stop, but Coach Brooks is like, again. But then they go, the rink manager wants to clean the ice and then go home. And then Coach Brooks goes, tell him to leave me the keys. I'll lock up. And I just love that.
That's great. Great coach line.
I don't know why I thought it was so funny, but I just thought that was hilarious. And so I laughed out loud to that line. So that was my favorite line.
What was that? Because I was about to say the first Goosebumps moment for me was right after that.
Yeah.
When Rizzo, Mike Ruzioni, you knew it was coming, You knew it was coming. They're building up to the moment where the first player says, "I'm a member of Team USA and not my college team."
Yep.
But it still made me so excited.
It's the best. I agree with you. I don't think there's a better scene, and that's probably the best line of the movie, right? I mean, that was
just the buildup of that whole scene where they just keep going and going. They turn off the lights in the arena. The players are throwing up on the ice, and even his assistant coach and the team doctor are like, "Herb, you got to stop this."
Yep.
And I do really like the legs feed the wolf. The legs feed the wolf, boys. The legs feed the wolf. He keeps saying that when he's making them train for cardio, and I love that. But that whole scene was great. So I loved the I'll lock up line building up to the Mike Eruzione. I'm a member of team. I play for Team USA.
But here's the exact line. So Mike speaks up and he goes, "Winthrop, Massachusetts," and then Brooks goes, "Who do you play for?" "I play for the United States of America." And then this is the best line. "That's all, gentlemen."
Yeah.
Oh,
so good.
Oh, it was great.
It's a great scene.
It's
great
so
scene.
good. It's so good. And that's probably the pivotal moment. And then we know the famous scene during the Soviet Union. I think they play that, the halftime speech, or maybe it's the pregame. I forget if it's pregame or halftime. Pregame of the Soviet Union game. That's kind of the famous one that you'll hear. Opportunities are built from great moments are built from
great opportunity,
or whatever the line
great
is.
Moments arise from great opportunity, or something like that.
That one. And so I didn't do today's topic because that was, I don't know, too cliche. I thought about it. I almost did it, but I did not. But that's a great line. But to me, the one in the Sweden game when they were struggling and, the Rob McClanahan gets hurt and Brooks gets mad at him and kind of questions his toughness.
Yeah.
That, to me, I got fired up for that one. And then he finally gets him to say, he's like, "I'll play on one leg."
"You want me to play on one leg, coach?"
"I'll play on one leg." And then he walks out and he talks to his assistant coach and he goes, "That'll get him going."
That'll get him going.
I think that was the other time I laughed out loud.
That was great.
So that was awesome. And then the next line was the assistant coach, the guy from Back to the Future. He goes, "I'll clean up. I'll clean up."
He's Biff from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah.
You're right.
Right?
I like that actor. And I was like, he
goes, "I'll clean up," because he made a mess because he flipped the table and all of that. So I thought that was funny too. Yeah, I'll clean up.
I will say, one of the things that drove me crazy about this movie was how often they used the word boys.
Boys?
Did you pay attention to boys?
No, I didn't. Oh,
boys was where, dude. I bet they say boys 300 times in this movie. They never call the players guys or men or players. They only call them boys. Boys, let's go, boys. Get it together, boys. I mean, they must say boys. So that if I had a critique, and that's a very minor one, way too many boys. And the players also called the coach Herb. They called him by his first name.
I did notice that. I did notice that.
That would not have flown in any sports team that I was ever a part of in like high school, at least. It would have never. Yeah, Roger. We would have never called him Roger, or we've been running for the rest of the night. And they called him Herb all the time. Where I did think there were, in some of the intense team dynamic moments, I think the direction there was probably like kind of ad-lib this one a little bit, guys. And they always fell back on boys. I bet they said boys 400 times in this movie. And it was driving me crazy by the end of the movie.
Officially, 71 times.
Are you able to word search the script? That's good. That's
71.
Good. There was a lot of boys.
So that's significant.
There was a lot of boys in this. But
go ahead.
What I will say,
I have something to say.
The other funny thing that stood out to me about like real sports versus like movie sports discrepancy is like everything in sports nowadays is all about recovery, right? So you train hard, but then you also recover hard. You make sure you get the proper rest and nutrition. You don't overdo it. There was no concept of recovery in this movie. I absolutely loved it. It was just like, you skate till you puke your guts out. You play on one leg if you have to. This guy had a major like ligament sprain. Let's get him back on the ice 2 weeks later, And I think all of those things were sort of true to the to the real story. I did go look that up, but I love the idea of just like, you go as hard as you possibly can. I don't care about your rest. I don't care about your recovery. Like the legs feed the wolf. That really revved me up throughout this movie. I was like, I got to go harder in life, man. I got to go harder.
Well, it's funny you say that. I brought that up. I was with some buddies the other day and I was telling them, I went on a bike ride with my daughters today and it was really hot. And just as a dumb dad, I forgot to bring waters. So like normally if Jody's around, she's bringing waters. The girls always have plenty of water. They're good to go. However, we went on this bike ride. It was hot and they had no waters. And so we just had to make it back. And so my girls are digging deep. Like, guys, we just got to pedal. We're almost home. We're almost home. And so I was pushing them. But anyway, so then me and my buddy started talking about how things are different now, where you got to have water breaks. Everybody has a lot of water. So it's just a different world. So this movie from capturing the 1980s, I think speaks to that. We might be a little more recovery water driven, which is probably for the best. It's probably for the best.
I don't recall seeing a player drink water the entire time. Actually, I don't even remember water being offered. Yeah, and now my boys got to have their water bottle with them wherever they go. Yeah, you don't go to sports practice without having multiple water bottles with you.
That's right. Yeah. So my poor daughters didn't know how to handle it. But you're with Dad. No water. Water's weak. We keep going. Yeah. We keep going. Daddy, I'm so thirsty. We keep going. Yeah. So that was a mistake. Man. That was a mistake on my end. Now let me own that. Let me own that trip.
Did you? Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. Did you want to touch on Al Michaels? I mean, I think the
before
clip,
can we? I have to bring up one more thing. I'm taking us off track. I'm going to take us off track again.
No, that's my favorite place to be.
The concept of Coach Herb or just Herb, we heard that a lot, right? Yeah. So to flash forward today to 2026, I am referred to as Mr. Bryce and Coach Bryce fairly often. And I'm good with it. Yeah. I'm okay with it. I like it. Versus Mr. Johnson, who's my dad. Or Coach Johnson, who's my dad.
Yeah.
I don't remember anyone calling him Mr. Dean or Mr. John or Coach Dean. So I don't know if we're in a new era with that. Now we're going back to maybe Coach Herb. We're going back to that. Was that a thing then? So I'm Coach Bryce and I'm good with it.
I think it might be that certain first names lend themselves well to following that coach nomenclature and certain last names lend themselves. So I like the sound of Coach Johnson. I don't know. Would I rather be Coach Tripp or Coach Smith? I'm not sure. I will say I coached my son's t-ball team for the first time this year. And one of the other little boys on the team was a friend of ours from church. And the first day of practice, he was just calling me Pastor Tripp. And by the end of the season, like half of the kids had picked that up. And so I was Pastor Tripp. Yeah. And so I was like, wow, I gotta cut back on the swearing if I'm going to be known as Pastor Tripp. I do kind of like being Pastor Tripp. I've been called Pastor Smith before, and I think I like Pastor Tripp better. So I'm gonna go. I prefer Coach Tripp. So to me, it's all about in the sports setting where there does need to be some authority.
Yes.
Some proper respect for your coach figures. Don't ever call me Tripp. I need to be Coach Tripp. I'll take Mr. Tripp. I'll be Coach Smith. Don't just call me Tripp because that tells me that you're not taking this seriously out here, and I'm gonna make you run for that. So I was surprised.
Wow.
I would make the kids run. I would make the boys. The boys would run a lot. I'd say get to it, boys. Run to that tree over there, boys. And so boys. Yeah. No, I would make them make them run when they weren't taking things seriously. And I do want them to learn the discipline and the proper intensity of sports practice from an early age, So I wasn't scary or mean to them, but I would make them pay attention and make them work a little bit. So yeah,
I like it. No, that's good, Coach Tripp. So let's quickly talk Al Michaels, and then we'll jump into this week's devotional because we could talk about this movie all day. It really is a great one.
It's a great one. I highly recommend people go check it out. Yeah,
it's moved up my list. The one thing I'll say though is I'm not sure I can watch it all the time. Whereas I can watch Draft Day every year. I watch Rookie of the Year regularly. Remember the Titans never gets old. So those are
Remember the Titans is top
Space
of the
Jam.
list.
I've seen 1,000 times. I can't get enough of it. Those speaks to where I'm at.
This movie's a little bit of a slow burn. Yeah, there's not a lot of humor. You're right. Yeah.
So yeah, to me, a rewatchable movie has one-liners, has a lot of one-liners, and it becomes part of your language, and so that's what
you
always
don't have
makes
as many
fun.
of those. You're right. Yeah, good point.
All right, so let's talk Al Michaels because this was a career-defining moment for him. He wasn't necessarily a hockey announcer, but he just sort of raised his hand. He was a young announcer at that time and got this opportunity to call hockey. It's like, who's willing to call the hockey games for whoever? I don't even know who was broadcasting back then. Maybe ABC. But anyway, so then Al ends up taking off as a broadcaster because he has this famous line, "Do you believe in miracles?" Yes. And so I have to ask the question, is there a more famous line attached to a broadcaster than that line, or a more significant moment in, sports and sports calls. Jim Nantz has so many lines every week, every golf tournament. He's got a famous line or a cute, catchy line that he ends a golf tournament with, especially, and every year with the Masters too. One time I actually helped him with his Open. I talked to him about the Open for the show when he was here in Charlotte. So that was a little side note. I haven't told many people that, but that was fun. But anyway, so Jim Nantz always, he's got that, but I'm not sure like if he has one, maybe some of his Tiger Woods calls are pretty famous. Bob Costas comes to mind with his Michael Jordan. Could this have been his final shot with the Chicago Bulls when he hit that game winner against Utah and Brian Russell? So anyway, those are a few thoughts. What are your thoughts on Al
I'm
Michaels?
going to defer to you on fame because you're so good at knowing like who these broadcasters are and their great moments, so I don't know as much about that as you. I will say I do think, and I've heard this criticism before in different contexts, a lot of these kind of younger up and coming sports commentators and broadcasters, they seem to do a lot more kind of freewheeling and ad-libbing, and they don't, like Tony Romo has been criticized for how he will jump into a really big moment in like a game and say the goofiest thing.
Sit down, right? Tony, sit down.
And I actually think like Romo, he shows glimpses of being a great broadcaster. It just doesn't seem like he takes the preparation as seriously as somebody like an Al Michaels or Jim Nantz or some of these iconic guys did. And I love when they have the awareness to know this is a big sports moment and my line here is going to be connected to the captured video of this sports moment going forward, and they deliver on those great lines. And I'll just say, I love the, do you believe in miracles line at the end of this game? But I think it was real footage of the pre-game sort of the opening monologue, and that was also really great. I mean, it was really inspiring. And it did, the Al Michaels and Chris Collinsworth, I think they sort of became a little bit of a joke, or people were just kind of jabbing at them a little bit in the end of their time together on Monday Night Football. But man, when you see Al Michaels in his prime like this, you're like, this guy was great. And that monologue he had at the beginning was great. That line at the end is iconic. So yeah, I loved seeing him in that one portion of the movie. It was really fun. I'm
a huge Al Michaels fan. He's done so many different sports. At one point he was doing NBA, but of course NFL has been sort of his go-to, especially as of late. And I still like him. I'm fine with him on Amazon. I got more of an issue with Kirk Herbstreit calling NFL games. He's great on college.
Well,
Stick to college. But Al's he's still great. He's losing his fastball a little bit, but all these guys do. I mean, it's tough. These guys get older. He's been calling games since 1980.
Yeah. So, I mean, speaking of getting off track, did you happen to catch Linda Cohn's Final Sports Center?
I haven't watched it yet. No.
It's worth watching because I do think that
I did record it.
It's kind of like the end of an era. I think about all the time, who are the broadcasters and the Sports Center anchors and the iconic sort of figures who are coming up, who are going to fill the shoes of these guys like Al Michaels and Mike Tirico, like some of these great guys that I really enjoy. And I don't know what the answer to that question is. I sort of think maybe like a Greg Olson could get there. There are some younger broadcasters in the NFL that could get there. But what I was disappointed about by that coverage on Sports Center was it was like she was so iconic and had done that for so long. And they got to the final 5 minutes of the last episode, and it was almost like they were told, just kind of say what's on your heart, and let's just see how this turns out. And it just felt so sloppy to me. Ooh. And to me, it was almost indicative of the dynamic that we're talking about, where there used to be sort of a formality and a preparation and a pride in the fact that you were going to be delivering the lines that were going to define the great sports moments. And I just don't know that exists anymore. And so that was another part of this movie that made me really excited to hear that great line from him in that great moment. And surely he had thought of it beforehand and prepared it.
No, well, I don't know. That's okay. Your theory is interesting.
Not like a month beforehand, but as that game was winding down, I have to believe that these great guys are like, I think the guys who are truly great at it are like, okay, if the game ends this way, what am I going to say that's going to sort of encapsulate the moment? If it ends in a different way, what am I going to say? I don't know that I believe that these truly great lines were completely off the cuff. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe those guys they speak in finished prose and they're so good at the job that they deliver a great line in that moment. I think there's some preparation that goes with it. You think different?
I think you don't want to force it or let it.
Don't want to force it. It can't sound
needs
scripted.
To be spontaneous in the moment and allow it to come out. But I think your point being that, hey, carry some weight and respect for the moment, and that yes, these lines will live on forever. So be prepared and don't let the moment pass you by.
Yeah.
Don't squander that moment.
That's a good way to put it.
Is key.
Yeah. Big moments. You pay attention and you rise to the challenge. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you got to let it be natural.
You're right.
Too.
Yeah, that's a good
So
point.
I'll push back just a hair.
Can't be too fake.
Just
yeah, you're
a hair
right. It's got to feel
that.
organic. Yeah, that's good. That's good.
All right. So much to talk about with this movie, but let's dive into this week's devotional topic. And really, this movie focuses on the head coach, Herb Brooks. And we haven't talked about this enough, but I thought Kurt Russell did a phenomenal job. He was such a good actor in this movie. And so
good Minnesota accent, perfect angry coach face. There's never been a better angry coach face in this movie than the glower that he is capable of making in intense moments and angry moments was as good as any coach face I've seen in any movie.
And I liked that he wasn't like, he was actually likable, but also.
Do you think he was though? Because I actually not sure that by the end of the movie, you do like him, but I'm not sure that I would say at the beginning of the movie that he's likable. It's interesting how he is portrayed. He's a pretty intense guy who is actively saying, I want all these people to not like me so that they unify with each other. And I did not find him to be super likable until like the last third of the movie when he becomes a little more human. But I think that's part of the
interesting because I liked him throughout. I thought he wasn't like a total curmudgeon like some guys tend to be. So, but
yeah, you're right. You're right.
But different approach there. But here's the bottom line from the moment that he was talking to the committee and trying to convince them, hey, I want to be the head coach. He had an interview. He was casting this vision that was going to be a lot different than what they had done in recent years for how they were going to play, how they were going to approach, the team and building the team and how they're going to structure everything. He had a different plan than even what the committee had, but the committee allowed him to be the coach, put him in charge. And from that moment all the way through, really when they got to the Olympics, he did things that his players didn't always like. They didn't always appreciate. They didn't always understand. They were confused by it. Even his assistant coach questioned him, raised concerns, didn't quite grasp what was happening. Even the doctor that played a pretty cool role in the movie too. That was, he was a real life person as well. That was key to that team. And so, not everyone believed that Coach Brooks knew what he was doing, that he was actually doing what was best. And so here are some of the lines that jumped out to me in the movie. Jim Craig, the goalie, said, "You sure about that?" Craig Patrick, the assistant coach, "You're kidding me, right?" Jim Craig again, "I just don't see what it has to do with stopping a puck." And he was talking about this psychological test, that he wanted all the players to fill out, that Jim Craig actually did not fill out. And then the doctor said, "This has gone on long enough." And then Craig Patrick, "Doc, I mean, this is madness, right?" And then one more, Jim Craig said, "Oh no, I'll tell you what I don't understand, Herb." There it is again, talking to Herb. "I don't understand you. Nobody on this team understands you and your ridiculous sayings and your drills and those stupid psychology tests you had everybody take." And so it just speaks to all these different lines, speak to, again, the players didn't understand what Herb Brooks was up to. It didn't always make sense. And what they had to endure wasn't easy. Herb Brooks wanted them to be trained and prepared to go beat the Soviet Union, to go win the gold medal. And he knew that sometimes the discipline that they had to go through, that one night where he kept them in the dark at the ice rink, "I'll lock up," that was discipline. To not only the kind of a punishment, but also developing discipline too. And so all of that was designed for them to grow, for them to experience oneness and unity. And so he had a plan and purpose in all of it, even though the players didn't always grasp it and didn't always like what was happening.
I mean, it's addressed early on in the movie, right? That he realizes he has a singular goal. When he's even early at the very beginning of the movie, when he's interviewing with the Amateur Hockey Association, and he's telling them, if we're going to have a chance, and they're saying all that we want you to do is just don't embarrass us on a national stage. Their bar and their expectations couldn't be lower. And he's telling them, here is my plan for how I'm going to do this to my utmost. And the recurring theme, especially through the first half of the movie, is we're going to prepare like no one else. so that when the big moment comes, we're ready for it. Yeah, and I do think we often, when we hear that word discipline, we often think in terms of punishment. That's usually what that word is associated with, kind of in our modern vernacular, right? But really, it is being self-disciplined. It is being healthy and conditioned and perseverant enough to rise to the big moment when he comes. And he is singularly devoted to that throughout the entire movie, so that when the big moment comes, he says 9 out of 10 times they might beat us, but they're not going to beat us tonight. That's right. And so it is a great portrayal of a man that is devoted to a vision that nobody around him can quite see until close to the very end.
But what's great about these players is that they didn't quit, and they also did submit to his leadership because they wanted to be on the team. And so even though they didn't always fully understand, or maybe they questioned some things, they still stuck around. And even as he was pushing them beyond their perceived limits. And so he kept going. It's like, oh man, I can't go on any longer. Yet these players did. And it was all in preparation, because the bottom line too is he only wanted to do what was best for the team. And he knew the right things to do to ensure his players were prepared, equipped, disciplined, conditioned, refined. They had to be refined. They had to go through this whole refining process and just playing at their best and to get the best out of them. There was a lot of that with the goalie too, knowing that there was something greater in there to pull out from him. And then also, like we talked about earlier, them understanding who they were playing for and to get to that point. And it took a while for them to truly understand their identity and understand what they were doing there and who they were playing for and who they were representing. But when they finally got it, it unlocked so much for that team. And so, yeah, go ahead.
That's a great way to put it. They did know what the goal was, right? They knew the goal was the gold medal. They knew it was to be on the U.S. team and to be successful, but they didn't see the path that it was going to take to get there, and they didn't realize how intense it was going to have to be, right? And so that's where the trust came in for those players. They did trust and persevere. And that was really inspiring just to see they wanted to be there and they persevered even when they didn't understand what Coach Herb was up to.
That's right. Because there was a line too when he announced the team. I forget exactly what he said, but something like, like feel bad for the guys that are here. Like,
right. Yeah.
These guys are the ones.
They got off easy.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a great line. Yeah.
Yeah. I should have written that down. But so, Herb Brooks, the design for every test, every extra sprint on the ice, every difficult challenge was to help the team build oneness, play the right way, and experience victory. And so a couple lines from the movie that reveal this. Jim Craig, the goalie, said he'll do whatever it takes in talking about Herb Brooks, because he knew how important this was for him to win the gold. Because I thought another cool part of the real story is the fact that Herb Brooks played in the Olympics or lost. No, he wasn't. He was cut. He was cut from the team.
Last cut,
had a
right
chance.
before,
His team won the gold medal, and he was at home.
Yeah.
And so that was unbelievable. So there was a lot of motivation behind that. And then the doctor at one point in the movie says Herb has a reason for everything he does. And then the last thing, this is what Herb Brooks said when he was interacting with Jack and talking about if he was going to come back from injury or not. OC, he said, Jack, I got guys to think about here, and they're all looking at me to do what's best. That was the role of Herb Brooks. They were looking to him and submitting to his leadership, and he had to do what was best for the team and what he believed was the best plan and purpose for them to prepare and be ready to go to the Olympics, beat the Soviets, and go win the gold. And so it's an awesome movie. We love it. We love Coach Brooks. We love Kurt Russell. It was great. But I think the parallel for us today is huge, because when it comes to understanding what God is up to, let's face it, we don't always know. We don't understand God's plans and purposes to the full extent. We don't have the wisdom that God has. I was reading this book the other day just about the idea that God has complete wisdom. He knows everything. And that's the God that we serve, and we choose whether or not we're going to submit to him and his leadership. But that's his character, that he has that type of wisdom. But unfortunately, we still question. We're like, wait, why is he allowing me to go through this challenge? Why am I having to run ice sprints again? I'm having to go through this situation again. I got another trial. This test is going on longer. Like we wonder about all those things. And so the same lines that we heard in the movie, they come out of our mouths. We say, "You're kidding me, right? You sure about that? This has gone on long enough." And so we're actually quoting Miracle when we're talking to God in some of these moments. And so, there are times where we go, "I can't go on any longer. I can't go on any longer." And oftentimes God allows us to go a little longer in the struggle, in the challenge, and we're pushed beyond our perceived limits. But the amazing part is he's actually strengthening us. He's actually empowering us. But he's doing all these things to equip, prepare. His plans and purposes are being accomplished even though we can't see it. And so we might be questioning, but are we going to continue to go, "All right, I'm on his team. I want to be on his team. I've got to trust him. I've got to submit to him." And we just have to acknowledge that he does know what he's doing. And so as much as we want to question, and we will, but we've got to sort of drop some of these and go, God knows what he knows what he's doing and what he's up to. Let me submit to him.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I mean, I think we believe with our brains that God knows what he's up to. And in our hearts, we say, "How long?" I mean, it's interesting that these questions, that you've pulled out from the Miracle movie are not dissimilar to questions that pop up all over the book of Psalms, right? So it's worth noting in the movie when a player questions the coach, the coach doesn't immediately kick him off the team.
It's good,
right? They're allowed to question, and I think that's actually indicative of a real healthy relationship that they have with Coach Herb and with the other team leaders, where they are allowed to question. But are you going to continue to trust and to show up and to persevere in the midst of your uncertainty, trusting that the coach knows what he's up to?
Yeah.
How much more for us who God, who knows all things, who promises in his word that he has a good plan for us, and we are in the midst of suffering and uncertainty, we're allowed to say those things out loud to God, but we're meant to say them with reverence and with trust.
That's
right. So we're saying them with our minds set on the fact that he is in control and he knows what he's doing. And that's so important to have a real relationship with him. So it's important to say when we're going through suffering, it's not that we're not allowed to question. It's that what trust, what promises do we fall back on? And it turns out that's exactly one of the things that the Lord wants to produce in us, that in the normal sort of day-to-day suffering and struggling, Scripture says that our suffering produces perseverance, right? This is Romans 5. And perseverance produces character, and character produces hope, right? Coach Herb, he wants to make sure that these players are prepared in the unseen moments, just being on the ice in the gym together when they're practicing, for the big moment when it comes. And our God wants us to develop the perseverance, the self-control, the discipline in the unseen moments, in the behind-the-scenes suffering, so that when those handful of really big moments come in our life, we know what it's like to trust in him, to fall back on his promises, to depend on him, and to move forward with character and with hope.
Absolutely. And it is this process of refinement. And so, we're watching these players go through this whole process of training, preparing, being equipped, but really it's refining. They're having to, he's chiseling away at their conditioning for one, but how they play and their selfishness. And, we saw one scene where they brought in some animosity toward other players because they were playing against each other in college, right? And there was some controversy there that they had to work through. And so they had to deal with that, be refined, so to speak, and move forward. And so God has to do that in our lives. And so he allows certain challenges and tests and trials and suffering so that ultimately we become like Jesus, but by that happening, we have to be refined. The stuff that has to be eliminated and chiseled away, the selfishness, the pride, the animosity that we're bringing to the table,
the lack of unity, the divisiveness.
That's right. The bitterness, the anger, all those things, God is chipping away at us and refining. And so this, and what's great about this parallel too, is that US was all about going to get the gold. And there's this refining process that happens with gold. And so it represents that. then we go to the Bible. Here we find the gold process in 1 Peter 1, 6 and 7. So be truly glad. There is wonderful joy ahead, even though you must endure many trials for a little while. These trials will show that your faith is genuine. It is being tested as fire tests and purifies gold, though your faith is far more precious than mere gold. So when your faith remains strong through many trials, it will bring you much praise and glory and honor on the day when Jesus Christ is revealed to the whole world. And so there is a bigger vision in mind, right? Where man, one day when all of this ends, we get to be with Jesus, and we're in this process of being refined, and that's what's most important. That we're going to have this faith that is solid and strong, and we're trusting in who Jesus is and who He says He is, and depending on Him for everything. And every test and trial allows us to develop that faith more. So our faith is growing, our character is changing. We're also growing as the body of Christ. All of this is, for us to also experience oneness as the body of Christ, which is so important. And so we need each other when we're going through suffering. I was just reading today about Moses having to have his hands held up by
Aaron and her. Right?
Yeah. And so we need that. And so just like we see the teammates in the in hockey in this movie, they needed each other and experience that dependence on one another. So all of this is this whole process. And so we read about the gold process, but we're all in this training process as followers of Jesus. The process of sanctification, the process of maturing as followers of Jesus. We talk about it all the time. That's what we're in. But we have to sort of pull back every once in a while and understand that, okay, God is up to things that we don't fully grasp.
Yeah.
And we can't always explain. We can't always see the end. It's like, man, is this ever going to end? Is this trial ever going to end? And we have a choice. Are we going to continue to submit, continue to trust, and continue to acknowledge that He is in charge and He knows what He's doing?
Yeah, man. And that line, your faith is far more precious than mere gold. I mean, that just blows my mind. Do I actually believe that faith that is deeply set upon God is more valuable than gold? Scripture uses that language over and over again, that it's more precious than gold. And I do think that what our faith is it's sort of the connection. It is the conduit between us and God, where His blessings and His glory come into our life. And so in times of suffering, in times of discipline, in those times of sort of what seems like skating, endless suicides on the ice, just back and forth. God, what are you up to? Coach, what are you up to? He is stretching our sort of capacity to receive His glory and His blessing when those times come. There's a stretching aspect to it. And so do I desire for my faith to be strengthened, stretched, refined, enriched, so that when those big moments come, right? The legs feed the wolf, boys. The legs feed the wolf. Our faith feeds our success when the big moments of dependence and trust upon the Lord come. And our faith isn't going to disappoint us, because one day that hope's going to come to fruition and we will receive golden glory when we see our God and we arrive in the new heaven and the new earth. So it's just an important reminder for me who often put so many things on my list of priorities above the refinement of my faith, that the Lord is at work to deepen, to purify, to enrich my faith every day. And I can trust Him in that, even when I don't fully see what's going on.
Because very simply, if He put that team together and they played the Soviet Union the next day, there's no way they're winning.
Right.
There's no way they're winning.
Yeah.
But 6 months of intense training, and that was a season of their life, set them up to be able to handle this unbelievable sports moment.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Every sprint, wait, what did coach say? Wait, what does he do? What does he want us to do? Why do I have to fill out this psych test?
Yeah.
What is he up to? It all had a purpose, and there was a plan in place. And thankfully, those players, they did follow it. Even though there was some grumbling and wondering, Coach Herb's tactics and strategies did work. And they made sense. And so for us, we trust in God's plans, His purposes, His strategies, His tactics, knowing They're always good. They're always right. And they're always best. His ways are best. And this is like the hardest thing for us because we think we know best. And we're like, oh, come on. I know I don't know. I don't think I know best. But we do. By us questioning, we actually think, no, come on. This isn't the best way, God. Yeah. You should do it this way. This has got to be a better way.
Yeah.
And so it requires that humility to go, no, he knows what he's doing and it's the best way because he has full wisdom, full understanding. He sees the big picture. And so we got to trust him. So a couple verses to hit that home. Romans 11:33. Oh, how great are God's riches and wisdom and knowledge. How impossible it is for us to understand his decisions and his ways. And that's okay that we don't understand. Like we don't have to. We just have to be obedient and faithful and trust that we're being refined and our faith is building. Because sometimes it's like, no, I got to fully understand. No, you don't. It's okay. It's okay. And then Psalm 18:30, God's way is perfect. All the Lord's promises prove true. He is a shield for all who look to him for protection. And then Job 37:5, God's voice thunders in marvelous ways. He does great things beyond our understanding. And so he's in charge. He's the creator. He's got us in our hands. He has perfect plans. His way is best. Let's surrender and submit to that. And Proverbs 19:21, many plans are in a man's mind, but it is the Lord's purpose for him that will stand, be carried out. So there you go. So even when we don't fully understand, let's look to God to do what's best. Just like the miracle, Brooks is like, they're looking to me to do what's best. The team was looking to him to do what's best. Are we looking to God to do what's best? And are we believing that he has a reason for everything he does? Just like the doctor said about Herb Brooks. That's the truth with God. He's got a reason for everything he does. And so do we believe that and trust that? And again, to hit home your point earlier, let's bring our questions and our doubts and concerns to him and ask for that closed door meeting. Yeah. Right? Hey, coach, I don't know what's going on here. This doesn't make sense to me. Let's do that before the Lord. Go, God, I don't understand, but I trust you.
Yeah.
But I trust you.
That's exactly right. I mean, I think I've said it before on this podcast, but one of the prayers I pray most often, and one of my favorite, probably my favorite prayer in the Bible is, I believe, help my unbelief. The Father in Luke 9, who's like, I think Jesus can do something about this, but if I'm honest, I'm not 100% sure. My mind says one thing, my heart says another. I believe, help my unbelief. And I do think, I just love that we have this depiction of these three coach figures in this movie, right? And there is an intense disciplining, I know all things and I'm leading you through a difficult way sort of figure. But then there is also Coach Craig, who is sort of the brother almost, who is there to pick them up when they fall down. In our triune God, we have all of those things, right? We have a Father who sees the way and is leading us with love, but also through difficult circumstances. He's refining us through his discipline, right? We have a brother who is with us in the midst of that difficulty and picks us up when we fall, encourages us when we need encouragement. And we have a Holy Spirit who dwells with us, who is for our healing, right? So I don't want to get I'm not trying to get too like the shack on you here, okay? So got to be careful with our triune theology, but just to say, we have a God who has a bigger vision for our future and the plan that he has for us that we can even comprehend, and it's going to involve some refining fire, but we also have a God who is present with us in the midst of suffering. And so we can say, I believe, help my unbelief. We can come with our questions, but when we feel the Lord strengthening our faith, let's praise him for that with gratitude, that he's deepening our faith, that he's helping us to believe in his promises more and more, even in the midst of difficult circumstances. God is all those things to us.
That's a fun parallel. You just pull that out. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and I don't want to go too far with it, okay? I don't want to be careful with my Trinitarian theology here. We can get deep waters pretty quick with that. So not a perfect analogy, but there is something to it.
There's something.
There's a triune coaching model here for the U.S. Miracle team. Yeah,
that's funny. No, that's good. I like it. So yeah, again, the encouragement today is God knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. So let's continue to seek him and trust him. And so, man, that was fun. That was a fun movie, fun topic.
Movie. Great movie. Highly recommend watching it. If you hadn't seen it before, it's been a long time since you've seen it. I really enjoyed this movie.
Especially, the USA pick-me-up after the tough World Cup loss.
It's going to be even better after that loss last night. Yeah, it had me believing we were going to win going into that game. And I might need to go watch it again this week just to, a little palate cleanser. Yeah,
and we won the gold this year. We won the gold earlier this year, which was also fun. That was an exciting run for the U.S. hockey team and bringing back a lot of the memories from this story as well. So
what's
really
the next
cool
movie on the docket?
Field of Dreams next week.
Let's do it.
Field of Dreams. I got to rewatch it. So
go check it out, listeners. Go check it out so you're ready to discuss it with us beforehand. Yeah,
absolutely. For Trip Smith, I'm Bryce Johnson. I'm a sports fan who follows Jesus. I believe in the good news that he died on the cross for my sin. He was resurrected. And through faith, I've been saved by his grace. I hope that is true for you as well. And if it's not, please reach out. We'd love to talk to you about that so that we can continue to be sports fans following Jesus together. Have a great rest of your day, and we will talk to you next time right here on the Unpacking It Podcast.